obviously you're a gay guy as well. I know you use that other word, which I can't. There's some you can say. I just don't like saying it. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's just the way I've been brought up. But you say, what do you call yourself?
Well, I like saying queer.
Yeah,
I like identifying as myself as queer.
yeah.
And I mean, historically, it's a horrible word. Like, a lot of people don't like it because it was used as a massive slur, and there was a lot of violence sort of mashed in with that.
Well, it was, 'cause I remember when I was younger, late 80s to early 90s. I remember because where do I live? I lived up north somewhere, no, Midlands, Leicester. I lived up there a little while, and that is so, well, I don't know whether it is now. That is so homophobic around that area. It is awful. Well, I'm going to say it was awful back then, and I remember the term.
Yeah.
I think I've drilled back to why I don't use the word queer. I just don't like that term. It's such a thing. But if you want to be a queer man, then I'll say you're a queer man. I've got no thing on that, even though it makes me feel uneasy. But anyway, one of the big things I remember being quite young and everyone on about queer bashing. That term queer, and I vaguely, I can't believe I've forgotten that. I think for some reason you've jogged with it. When I was living up there, there were actually people who would go around, especially I think there used to be one street which was like the gay street or the queer street or whatever else. And every now and again people would go down there from certain communities and they'll literally beat people up for holding hands and whatever else. So I think I've got to the root of my anti-queer word. I'm being careful what I say there. I'm not anti-queer whatsoever. I'm just not the best with words. I think I know why I don't like that word, but I'm more than happy to retrain my brain because I think everyone's got the capability to do all that, and of course it's context as well.
I think for me, like, growing up, especially in like my especially in my 20s, is the word queer was at some point reclaimed by gay people, LGBTQ plus.
That's what Queer Eye for the what was it? Queer Eye for the Straight. What was that show? Queer as Folk.
Yes, that one.
Is that the one that brought it back?
Sorry.
That's the thing. What brought the word? Because I vaguely remember. I don't know where we're going with this conversation, but fuck it. No, I remember that Queer as Folk. That's quite funny watching that, if I remember rightly. But I remember that caused a shitstorm when people started using that word.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. I think I'm a bit young to know, but I mean, Queer Eye is still a program. It's like been reinvented for a newer generation, if you like.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of power in it being reclaimed.
Yeah.
But I can also see, as someone who didn't live through that period where queer was used as a slur and people were like physically attacked.
It used to be not like a massive thing, but I think most gay areas would have some sort of nutter what would want to go literally gay bashing. I remember Brighton. I used to DJ. I used to be quite well known DJing. There used to be a club. I don't know if it's still there, called the Honey Club. I don't know if it's still there. Brilliant club. Messy night, I can tell you that. And used to do the hard house and all this kind of stuff as well. But every now and again, bear in mind, obviously, as you know, but Brighton's full of them. Absolutely, very much. It is the place to be if you're gay, isn't it? Brighton, is that on the map? I think that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Anyway, yeah, again, I'm going off on one, but I remember there, like sometimes you'll leave DJing and whatever else, and people would hurl abuse at you. Bear in mind, I'm straight. I'm only there to DJ, but people hurl abuse at you just because you're walking out of a gay club and all this kind of stuff. And now it's I've actually forgotten the last time I've heard a slur, a homophobic slur. The only thing I hear now, which is, oh, that's gay.
Yeah.
They don't mean it as in being homophobic. It's just a saying. I'm not saying that's right as well, but I think that that's a good thing. I think that it's dying down. Have I made sense? Or
Yeah, I think there's different angles to that maybe it's less public, but it doesn't mean it's not there.
tell us.
And especially with social media and stuff,
Yeah,
it's it just moves so, because it's so much easier to be a horrible person behind a screen, so people just do that now. But also I think that attention shifts. So maybe initially it was, in terms of like media and what was being talked about, it was maybe like gay men who were initially sort of targeted, if you like, but like now, as well, obviously it's always happened, but now there's a lot more talk about like trans people being like abused verbally or physically.
yeah.
But it's weird, like all this stuff has always happened, but it just, we're made to feel like it happens in like parts.
Yeah.
So like, oh, these people were being whatever, held abuse at, and that only happened between this time and this time, and then it moved on to these people. There's like, no, like I would still say we still live in a homophobic society completely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it is just quiet, hidden, passive, and there's still a lot of work to do.
No, I agree with you, and please don't take my statement of sweeping all on the carpet and the whole homophobic thing is because he's like my friend Sam, or whatever else, and he's one of my best mates. I love him to bits, I really do. Funny enough, he's in my phone because gay Sam. But I think I'm in his as straight down, and it's kind of weird on how it is, because if I ever phone him, I'm like, oh hi gay Sam, and he'll say straight down. But if I ever heard anybody else say that and they didn't know him, called him gay Sam, I'd probably lump them and all this kind of stuff. But it's just, anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that one. I've no idea where I went with that. I just felt like telling you a fucking story. I was going somewhere with that one, but I think, yeah, it's. I remember seeing homophobic when literally you would get your head kicked in the street, and thankfully that's dying down in, as maybe it's being hidden, brushed under the carpet. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make it right. I'm a straight bloke, married, and so I'm not in. I no longer DJ anymore, and so I'm not really in that scene, even if I was like an outsider and whatever else. So we are a long way to go, but don't know where I'm going with that one. But with you and your mental health, do you think it's harder being a gay bloke or a queer bloke? Even, I'm going to use that term. I'm really going to try and use that just because that's what you want to be called. But it's just, is it easy being a queer and having mental health issues, even though you're trying to resolve? Do you think it's harder?
That's a hard question. I think
I want to know.
I guess for me, a lot of my mental health issues there's always been a part of that which is integrated with my sexuality. So whether that's you know, my own insecurities of what people think of me because I'm gay, or all that sort of stuff, it kind of threads its way into, you know, those not so nice thoughts. So whether it's, I wouldn't say I have mental health issues because I'm queer.
Yeah.
I think that's a step too far, but there's, I mean, I don't know, but maybe if if I wasn't queer, then there'd either be something else that replaced it in terms of that whole thought process
Yeah.
and how that interacts with my mental health, or it would just be one layer less to think about, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, because I think just from my uneducated mind, I think it would be harder.
I get if I think
It's something else for somebody else to think about on your behalf, and whatever else.
yeah.
Because it's funny enough, as I say, like Jordan, I phoned up Jordan at literally a couple of minutes before thing, and I went to him. I was like, if he's going to ask Ben some questions, what would you want to ask him? Because I didn't want to blurt out my questions, because I'm quite worried about missing questions and whatever else. But all I can do is do this as honest as I can, and sometimes make it up as I go along and see where it all goes. But interesting enough, you might have already answered it, but he did say, it's a good question actually. And how long have we been going? By the way, I don't want to cut it off too. About 20 minutes, isn't
it? About something like that.
Okay, no, it's fine. I'll tell you what we'll do. Can we do another 5 minutes?
Yeah.
It's just I'm just conscious we're going to have to put it on a thing in a thing. But anyway, it's fine. Let's see where it goes. Let's do another 5-10 minutes. Okay. He said on it, it's a good question actually. Do you have to explain yourself about being gay?
Sometimes I now don't.
Yeah.
To some people, I'm like really obviously queer. To other people, they're like, maybe, but I don't want to assume. It's not something I would be like, I would intentionally bring up.
Yeah.
If I was, say I was meeting new people or whatever, and I don't know, conversations about relationships came up, and I would start talking about not having a boyfriend, then ta-da, everyone knows.
Yeah.
I don't like making a point of standing up and being like, well, I'm this, because I don't want it to be a defining thing about me, or rather I don't want it to be the only thing that people take away from that. Like, oh, we met this new person the other day, he's queer, that's all we really know.
Right. Okay.
And people love labels. So as well intentioned as people are, that is probably the only thing that will be in their heads. Like, it's, I don't know, it's a difficult one.
It's a question where
very much with
it's very much a context question, isn't it? It's such a hard one. And when he said it, I was just like, actually, do you know what? I couldn't work out whether it was a good question or a crap question. But I was actually, do you know what, that is quite a good one, because I think I'll go by the attitude of just like, I literally don't give a shit if you're gay or not. For me, I think I said this before in other videos. I just go by life where you're a dickhead or you're not a dickhead. And if you are a dickhead, I'll at least give you a chance to be a little bit of a dickhead. I'll always give people a chance, and then I'm like, you know, I don't need that crap in my life. Who you go and sleep with and share your life with, do you know what, mate? It really has got nothing to do with me. It really hasn't. I've just got my own shit to deal with. I really have. My life's just mental as it is. So for me, it's just easy just to go, yeah, that's my mate Ben, and all this kind of stuff.
Well,
and do you know what I mean? It's just easier.
And I think people just try too hard to figure out stuff about people.
Yeah.
And if you're not like obviously, in terms of stereotypes anyway, if you're not obviously one thing or another, you can almost see people trying to figure you out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, just ask. Just ask a question.
Do you think they are, or do you think that's your anxiety playing up?
I think it is definitely both.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, if I just quickly talk about some of my experience of university,
No,
there
please.
are like, sorry.
No, please do. Yeah.
Oh,
The only reason I said another 10 minutes because I didn't want to waste all of your drag out your evening. But I'm
yeah.
here until we finish, man. It's just that obviously people are going to watch it when we upload it. That's all I was thinking about.
Yeah. Well,
But
no, all I was going to say was that even at that time, so, this is when I'm 18 to 21. So this is like 2009, so not even that long ago. And I was in Nottingham. There would still be people who they would know I'm gay, queer for whatever reason,
yeah,
because it's come up in conversation, and then would just refuse to interact with me because of that.
really.
After that point, yeah, and a lot of sort of like underlying homophobia, where it's like no one talks about gays,
Yeah,
and the only like visible sort of queer people were like the LGBT society,
yeah,
but they were all sort of cast as like outcasts and weirdos, and like almost like their opinions are crazy because they're like so visibly queer, and like that was my experience of uni. So you either fly under the radar and don't really talk about it, or you're so like out there that you're inviting people to say something.
yeah,
So in terms of like still now and what you've just said, like, yeah, it's totally, I feel like people look at me and they're like, oh, I wonder if he's queer or not. And it's just like, obviously it doesn't matter, but yeah, there's still an anxiety there for sure.
yeah. Absolutely. So I think you've now answered a better answer than you did to the question I asked about mental health and being gay. Do they have a knock-on effect? I think you've just
Yeah.
answered that in a far deeper way without actually realising it. Uh,